Welcome to the 320 Podcast, where we encourage you to reach for the immeasurably more life with Christ. From discussions on Scripture, to poetic messages, to dreaming big with Jesus, you will enjoy a variety of episodes brought to you by Shelly Wilson Ministries. To find out more about Shelly Wilson Ministries and the many resources available to you, please visit our website at www.shellywilsonministries.org.
So we can go.
All right.
Yay. And I'm super excited Kim's with us.
Oh, yes.
Kim Clayton. So do you want to introduce yourself a little bit? Because we kind of made everybody do this last time.
Sure.
You're with New Creation also. So what's your role there?
I'm the residential coordinator. I take care of what happens in the house.
Awesome.
And
that's busy.
yes, it can be.
That's a lot.
That's awesome.
That could be a lot.
Well,
can
she
be.
does a whole lot more than that, too. She does a lot of counseling, one-on-one, a lot. I think probably taking care of the house part is probably the minor thing. It's the students that are the major thing, really.
Especially, when you get there, they can sometimes, not all the time, they can be needy.
Sure.
And so we're talking about busyness, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Well, we see that too, Kim. I mean, especially when someone's new, comes to us brand new, there's such a submersion for us to of a new heart that's coming in that's in so much pain. It's almost like, where do you start?
right.
But yeah, y'all. One of the things y'all had written on the, which I think was your idea, maybe. Am I right, Lisa? It's kind of about busyness. The busyness that when you're trying to heal, you go into a busyness mode, which is kind of an avoidance of your own issues. So you're trying to help everybody else. You know what I mean? So maybe talk a little bit about that. What does that look like? Because maybe some people don't understand. We see that a lot. Someone needs their own healing, but they immediately start trying to help everybody else because they don't want to deal with their own stuff, which we end up having to talk to them about, So talk to me about how y'all see that working in the recovery process.
Me first. Well, that's the thing that I like the most about our house not being, 30 or 40 ladies, because they don't get lost in that. You can usually spot it pretty quick, and of course I can because I struggle with it myself. But it wears you out. It wears them out, and then they become critical of everything. So it's not easily hidden, it can be rough sometimes because the person can be really capable of doing anything that you ask them to do, but that's just a front, I know with myself, because of rejection, so you want to be accepted, so you do everything to the best of your ability, perfectionism. And so it's not too easy, I don't think, in our house for them to get lost in that. And as far as how we help them with it is let them know that it's not about performance. Do it for God, and He's the one that rewards us. And I mean, myself, I came through a ministry, or this ministry actually, and I'm just going to be honest. To this day, I can be that way, and then I'm looking for somebody to notice what I'm doing, and they don't notice it. So then I do more. And then they don't know, and then I do more, and then it breaks. So it ends up putting a wall up, and then I end up crumbling.
Yes.
Under that pressure, because it's real. It's reality.
Yes, it very much so.
And
yes.
honestly, for any of us, I mean, I think we all have an innate desire to be seen.
appreciated.
you know,
Yeah.
and I mean, I've seen it in other women, but frankly, I see that in my own self.
Yeah.
You know, I'm an OCD kind of person. You know, where that started in my life, I'm not really sure. You know, but always having to, you know, try to prove that you can measure up in certain areas. I mean, and we talked about this last time. We all still have that. It doesn't matter that I'm 20 years in with the Lord. I still have those things that rise, you know, and I have to. There are times I've looked at Jan and said, and asked her, "Listen, are we sure that I'm not busy to avoid personal pain?"
Right.
Because it
Yeah.
doesn't matter that you're a leader.
Right.
You
Right.
still have it. And sometimes even worse or more so because you're having to keep leading, carrying some of it.
Yeah.
Because, you
Right.
know, we don't always get immediate healing either.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a process, you know. I love, you know, we feel the same way about the small groups. You know, even when we've seen God in here clear out a room for one person.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right.
Yes.
And, you know, maybe years ago that would have bothered me because I would have thought that wasn't success.
Right.
You know what
Yeah,
I'm
right.
saying?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
by the world, not just the world standards, but by the church's
Yeah.
standards,
Right.
Yeah.
numbers.
So much.
Wide, yeah.
I mean, how
numbers
many
are the-
times have you?
Yeah.
I have even over at Refuge of Light, our friends over there. You know, they get questions all the time. Well, you only have 6 people. Are you kidding? Do you know how 6 people who are recovering from child sex trafficking, how much
Teenagers.
need there is there? It is all consuming.
It is. It's tough.
Same way in any kind of addiction, or even with us when we're uncovering childhood abuse, or even just a lifetime of, you know, women who've been spoken negatively over their whole lives.
Right.
Right.
So there we go with the OCD and the perfectionism, and maybe if I do more, I'll be better for everybody. And you know, I think there's a constant need for us to say, well, here's the thing: you're seen by Jesus.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
You know, and I think there are times all of us forget almost because we're always looking for that approval of everybody else. Why can't I fit in this group or that circle, or why don't they like me, or you know, because when you're leaders on platforms, I don't know about y'all, but I can stand on a platform and see who's with me and who's not.
Yeah.
Right? There's nothing worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's nothing worse than preaching a message
Yeah.
and knowing you got a corner over here that's whew, opposing you. in
Yeah.
the spirit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes.
or you know, and those kind of things really happen. But so we love small groups. So important because nobody should get lost.
Right.
You know,
That was our thing. Is when we opened this ministry, we never wanted it. Excuse me, to be large because we've seen large ones.
Yeah.
And yeah, the numbers look great. Oh, wow, you got 100 people. Oh, you got 75 people. Oh, that's great. Look at, you got 30. Like, but how many of them are getting lost?
right.
How many of them are hiding in that number?
Amen.
Not getting lost necessarily, but
good.
hiding, using
yeah.
that
That's
to
good.
hide. Because let me just do what I got to do. Let me get through here so I can go home.
Yeah.
And they don't. And so that was our purpose in keeping our ministry small.
Right.
So I always said I'm not going to rack them and stack them.
Amen.
Like we've seen
These
done.
aren't, we're not hurting cattle.
We're not hurting
Yeah.
cattle.
We're healing people.
Right. Right.
You're seeing each one. And that's hard when it's a big group.
Yeah.
Each
yeah.
one, like you were talking about, giving them time. And like Shelly had said, it's at first we can think, we go, are we doing right? We're not having this, just a few are coming. But then we just realized, and especially I realized that one is who God wanted us to deal with. And if the others had been
Right.
there, or if we had a
Right.
big group, then we wouldn't have had time to spend on that person, that issue.
Yeah, right.
So he's very specific, and it's hard for us to accept that sometimes, because of our worldview, I think, that we're just programmed I know we are programmed of numbers and doing this and reaching, and this is what we're supposed to do. We have this expectation that's been put upon us, and this is how it's supposed to look, instead of seeing Jesus' expectation and what we're really supposed to do, and we're reaching and being comfortable with that. You know, because the world tells you no, 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 and you have to be able to say, you know what though, but Jesus, I'm okay with this because this is what He's doing, and it's the same thing when we're talking about trying to get approval and seeking that from people and recognition, is that the world is so in our ear and Satan's so in our ear about that, and just knowing, as Shelly had said earlier, that Jesus is seeing us, and what He's called us to do is all that we need to do. I think we had talked about this last time, and that we get lost and we can get distracted and caught up and off track of what we're supposed to do so easily. He's really good about that. And it's not that we're doing bad stuff.
Yeah.
You know, we're doing stuff for the Lord, and we're doing right stuff, and we're helping, but we get so busy helping others that all of a sudden we're all used up. You know, all our energy's gone, all our enthusiasm. We're just drained, and we say, "Why am I drained?" It's because we're doing so much that we're not
stepped outside the anointing.
Yeah, that's right. That's it. Of what we're supposed to do, and it'll drain you like that.
Yeah.
Well, I was just thinking as you were talking, the way of Jesus, He speaks very clearly, is to leave the 99 for the one.
Oh yeah.
Right.
You know, and we love to quote it. We just don't really like to do it.
Right.
And if we're honest, because we feel that doesn't seem right to us. But I tell you, even recently, at least twice now, I know this happened Monday night in Julie's group, and it happened one night when I had a new lady coming in for a group. Well, it was
my group,
yeah,
my
your
last group.
Yeah, where the Lord just cleared the room, and we were able to say, "Look what the Lord did for you."
Right.
You know, because some of her pain, like all of us, was she had been such a caregiver of everybody else her whole life, but she ended up losing herself. You know what I mean? Which led to other things.
Right.
Right, because you start seeking other things outside the will of God. When you you just lose your focus, lose who you are.
Right.
You know, but it was a beautiful thing to see the heart of Jesus just clear out the room. I mean, y'all, it was so, when you think about it, that's who we serve. And He feels that way about all of us.
Yes.
Sometimes He needs to clear the room for Shelly,
Yeah. Right.
for Lisa, for Kim, for Jan.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes I need to be sat down and say, "Guess what, baby? You're not going to minister today because I'm going to minister to you."
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and I think sometimes we forget that, but we are seen. And somebody mentioned, and I'm not sure where this will go. It might have been you, Kim, but process. I was thinking too, because I know y'all's structure is, don't the ladies come and stay for a year? They commit to a year. Let's talk about that a little bit, because I think some people even get frustrated with that kind of commitment. But or maybe you and I have talked about, they may not be ready if they can't commit to that.
Right.
But let's talk about the importance of committing to the process, because we see that here too, that some people want to run in for a quick 24-hour healing, as if that even exists.
Right.
It's not that Jesus can't do it. And I have people ask me that all the time. Well, Shelly, don't you think Jesus can heal in that suddenly? Absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't find that He's doing that here. He
Right.
may do a sudden deliverance or healing in a moment of a thing, but I promise you we find 5 to 10 more things behind that thing that
Right.
now
Oh,
we
yeah.
have to go
Yeah.
after.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So talk about the importance of why 12 months. To be honest, in the grand scheme of things, that's not a long commitment.
No.
For your life, your eternal life.
Yeah.
Even.
Well, when I have a lady call, getting information about the program, that'll be the first thing that, oh, I can't do a year. And my question always is, how long have you been involved in your addiction?
Right.
10, 15, 20, 30 years. Well, you've been doing this for 30 years. You can't take a year, I said, you've got to look at it in perspective. look at how many years you have wasted, how many years you have hurt
Right.
yourself.
Right.
Let's not talk about anybody else. Let's talk about you. How many years have you been hurting and living in this kind of pain, and you don't want to take 1 year
Yeah.
to be in a safe place, for one thing.
Right.
You don't have to worry about anything. We're going to feed you. We're going to
Right.
make sure you got clothes. We're going to
Yeah.
make sure you got a roof over your head.
Right.
You know, and you can't do that. You know, it's it's a hard commitment to say I'm going to stop my life, because it's not that their life is so good. It's their life is their life is their habit. You know, their routine. You know.
So talk about then some of, because you and I have had talks about some people that I thought needed to come, and I knew they weren't going to commit or whatever. And I remember asking you things like, how come they won't listen? Why won't they listen to me, Lisa?
I don't know, Kim. Why don't they listen?
And listen, that's
Denial.
well, and it's not, and I want to be careful that because I don't want to sound like I'm not downplaying the commitment or downplaying the mindset of where you are in the moment, but maybe we're just trying to bring it back to a true reality here, which we find that all the time. Because I've done it, let me say we have lived in a false reality at times that somebody's got to pull me back to the truth.
Yeah.
You know? So anyways, what are some of the excuses? Because I have a feeling someone listening, the Lord could prick a heart. It's going, okay, that's me. That's the excuse I'm using to not want to heal. And we see this even outside of addiction. We see this, it can be any of us where we decide we don't want to deal with our need for healing. So we're going to skip over that and try to pursue destiny with Jesus. It's not going to happen. It'll be messy. Because I did that in a season where I just I don't want to deal with that. You know, I'm going to go on towards destiny. Jesus has got me. You know, I said all the spiritual things. Yet I was bleeding all over the people I was trying to serve.
Yeah.
You know, and not that I've arrived yet, but there's a point where you do have to stop and say, this is my issue. Somebody help me, you know.
Right.
So what are the excuses you guys see? And then, Jen, I'll let you share because I know you've got plenty too.
As far as excuses, I've heard a year is a long time, or what about my mom? She's sick, or things like that. And what I tell them, and I've said many times, it's not about doing time.
Right.
That's a prison sentence. We're not in prison.
That's good.
It's the start of a journey.
Yeah.
And also you're gonna do a year someplace, but it's like when we put
That's good.
looking at it as
That is awesome.
You're gonna do a year in jail, in the or maybe not a year in the hospital, but in the grave somewhere. You're gonna spend a year.
Yeah.
But see, the time goes by so fast when we're in that addiction out there that we don't realize it's been a year or 20 years or 30 years.
Right.
But a lot of the excuses that I used myself was I just wasn't. I mean, to be honest, I wasn't ready, or I was scared.
Sure.
I was fearful of what would the new person be like. Would anybody
good.
like her? Would a lot? I think a lot of it is just fear. But the excuses that I hear is a year's a long time. What about my family? What about my kid? What about my boyfriend? What about my, everything that's not the families of God. I'm not saying that, but
I get it.
Yeah, I understand.
just distractions.
That's good, Kim. I like what you said about what am I going to be like? Is
Oh, I
anybody
just
going
wrote
to
that
like
down,
what
yeah.
I end up being?
Yes.
And I have heard that from other people not associated with our program that were hurting and going through PTSD or anxiety or whatever. And because that had become their identity, I'm afraid of what I will be, and will anybody care about that person that I become?
Right.
Not realizing that the freedom it's going to bring, they're going to be happy for you. They're going to want to be with you. But it is. That's a real thing, what is
Right.
that new person going to be like?
There's,
yeah.
I
That's
believe
good.
that there's somebody out there to help everyone. You know,
Right.
whether it's us here at New Creation to help those that are lost in life controlling issues, or deliverance. There's
Yeah.
somebody out there for everyone, and they're waiting, or not. They are waiting, but if the person could realize that somebody is wanting to love that person
Yeah.
that God has placed inside, and not the person that is not the mask that they put up, because we all have a gift
Right.
inside, and if we will allow people in, then we get to see that person blossom, and you don't even realize. I mean, you know what I'm saying? You do,
Yeah.
but you don't, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You realize you're changing, but you don't realize how much,
Yes.
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Well, and it's kind of like when you said one of the excuses, well, what about my kids? Well, but what about your kids if you don't go through
Right.
healing?
Mm-hmm.
The kid, and that's where, the enemy's in the head screaming that it's better here than there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which is just so not true, right?
Right.
That the vibrant life for the children depends on the healing of mom or dad.
Right.
And it's the same way for all of us with our kids. Whatever I need healing of. My kids are watching. They watched me go through the PTSD season where I was, cooking dinner, weeping at night, and I remember my daughter walked by the kitchen, and I heard her tell my husband, whoever's doing this to mom, could they just stop? You see what I mean? She knew, they know. They're so smart. Kids are so smart. We think we're hiding things. We're not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They're smarter than us. Come on. Come on. Anyway, Jan.
Because we live in that bubble, and we get in our head that, oh yeah, I'm disguising everything, I'm covering everything up.
Yeah.
And that goes back to what y'all both said. It really clicked with me that people come in and they are fearful, and they are fearful of what they will become, but also of what people will really see, because so many times we get really good at hiding what we believe we really are, and so we can't let people see that, because if they see the real us, they're really not going to like it, because the real us is horrible. The real us is not good. We've shamed and blamed ourselves so much, and so if that mask is gone, what happens if that real me does come out? And and they do see the real me. It is scary, and that plays in your head. And I see that over and over so many times. That fear of, I can't let them see the real me, because it's that everybody will run from me. So I've got to keep this screen up.
The fear of rejection.
Yes, instead of being the real you and getting to that, past that line, seeing that the real you is amazing. That, God did create you, and this lie out here of that fear that Satan has put upon you is such a lie. And if you can ever get past that and take that step, which is really, really hard, it is very fearful.
Yeah.
It's really hard to do that, to face that fear of what you think you are, and see what you really are, and not believe the lie anymore. It's tough.
And it's hard to, or not hard. It's fear, or it puts fear in you to have to think about the pain that you might have to endure to
Yes.
let go of things, because I know
Yeah.
myself letting go of my old life was, I had to just, leave it was like I had become my own best friend.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Well, two things. Don't let me forget that. Remind me of grief. When you were talking, one of the first songs I ever wrote, I hid it under my bed because the Lord had not really taught me to write songs yet, and I thought they were terrible. So I had like 3, and I put them on. So there you go for insecurity right there. But the song was, "Why can't they see the real me? Just like you do when I'm down on my knees." don't we just all have that question? I mean, you know, all our lives, like there's always going to be somebody that can't see who you are. And you know, the Lord's been talking to me lately, but to secure people, myself included, in who does he say I am? Because I'll always play to who everybody thinks I am.
Yeah.
If I'm not careful,
Yeah.
or I'll.
That
Yes.
performance.
Oh, yeah.
It is. It really is. You don't know it's performance, but it's still the root. Kim is, you know, will people like me, or if I'm real,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
you know, you know, those kind of things. Because listen, we all have bad days. Let's say, talk to your team. You know, we've had bad days. You travel. I remember traveling on the road. Some you get so tired and ornery and anxious, and your team sees you at the worst.
Yeah.
You got to minister the next day. But we all have those real life moments. But so you and I had, it's so funny how God turned something around, because I had marked out, I thought, well, we may not talk about grief seasons, because sometimes I wonder if I talk too much about grief seasons, but you know, because of personal grief seasons. But I wondered too about, in the healing work that you guys do, you can grieve what was even when it was bad. In other words, so even though you're stepping towards healing, this is for anyone in healing. I can talk about an abused wife. Oh my goodness, how many times we have to say, but remember, what wasn't good. But in the moment, all she remembers is the good.
Yeah.
But it's good until it ain't.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so we see all that domestic violence stuff happen. Same way with addiction. Same way with, we see it with kids who are sexually abused and CPS. They just want to go home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even though mom and dad are sexually abusing them. But I find even letting go of the old that's bad, that you know is not good for you, you go through a grief process of what was. And we've tried to be real sensitive to that, because I think even in the church, we kind of, for lack of a better word, poo-poo that a little bit. Like, get over it. You know, it's not that simple. You really have to walk people through grief. Even when it makes no sense to us, it makes sense to them.
Yeah.
So talk to me about, because you kind of opened up a little bit on that. Maybe share some of what that, you know, you said I lost everything. There is a loss in the gain. I talk about this all the time, the cost of following Jesus. There is a loss. Some of the loss is good, frankly, but it doesn't feel good. Doesn't mean it feels good. So what was that like for you personally, walking through that?
Well, to be honest with you, I'm still walking through it, and it's scary. It's to be honest, there's times that I miss it, you know.
Yep.
And because
I
it's
understand.
like when you break your arm, it hurts, and years later you remember it hurt, but you don't remember what happened to cause it.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I have to play the tape through. Okay, this is where it ended up, you know. But because I mean, my issue wasn't just addiction; it was so many other things, you know.
Gotcha.
But so, but it was very frightening to me, you know.
Did you feel like when you, I'm assuming you tried to change circle of friends?
Oh yes,
That's hard in itself.
To be honest with you, I didn't have to have anybody. I was destructive all by myself.
Gotcha.
So, but I realized that addiction, I mean, the thought patterns that I had, because I had them, caused me to go into addiction, because I couldn't bear what I was going through without being drunk or high or whatever,
Right.
you know. So of course that's a lot of people, you know, but all I can say, it's terrifying. But I remember, and I say this all the time, is that when I accepted that Jesus loved me just the way that I was. That I didn't have to change, because that's what I was trying to do, is I was wanting to change.
Right.
But I didn't know how.
Yeah.
And so if I wasn't perfect, then I felt like he didn't accept me. But I finally realized when I came to this ministry, and it was just me sitting in a cubicle, you know, doing the classwork, that he accepted me, you know, come as you are.
Yeah.
He cleaned me up.
Right.
It wasn't me. And that's, you know, that's when things started changing, is when I felt accepted by him.
We hope today's episode has blessed you and encouraged you to pursue Christ passionately. To join us again for more encouragement, equipping, and empowering, subscribe to the 320 Podcast. We would also like to invite you to enjoy our round-the-clock radio station, Royalty for Real Radio for Women, at royaltyforreal.com. That's royalty, the number 4, real.com.